Okay, so hello, and thank you for joining us for today's event, Taking Next Step with Your Drug in Japan. This Endpoint News event is in collaboration with Nikkei Biotechnology and Business. I also want to thank our sponsor, Nexera. Thank you. I am Ayak Boder, Editor-in-Chief at Nikkei Biotechnology and Business. I am excited to kick off today's event with our first panel, including Japan in global trials, new PMDA rules, and DC office support. If you have any questions, please submit it using the Q&A button. Also, today's whole session will be available to watch on demand on May 23rd. So before we begin, I would like to introduce our speakers, Dr. Fujiwara, Chief Executive of PMDA, and Dr. Ishiguro, Head of Washington, D.C. Office of PMDA. As you may know, PMDA is a regulatory authority responsible for the review and safety measure of drugs and medical devices in Japan. Dr. Fujiwara.
Hello, everyone. I am Yasuhiro Fujiwara, Chief Executive of PMDA, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to introduce PMDA's activities today.
Hello, I'm Akihiro Ishiguro, Head of Washington, D.C. Office. Today, thank you for giving me the time to introduce our new office. I hope to have a productive session where we can share our latest activities of the office.
So first, I would like to briefly introduce Dr. Fujiwara and Dr. Ishiguro's bio. Dr. Fujiwara has taken his position as Chief Executive of PMDA since 2019. And now he's a Vice Chair of ICMLA as well. And Dr. Fujiwara was previously Director General of Strategic Planning Bureau of National Cancer Center and the Deputy Director of National Cancer Center Hospital. He is a medical oncologist specializing in breast cancer. Between 2011 to 2013, he was a Deputy Secretary General of Office of Medical Innovation Cabinet Secretariat of Japan and led his policy issue regarding life science. Dr. Fujiwara has authored and co-authored over 280 original articles in peer-reviewed journals, including Nature Review Drug Discovery, Lancet Oncology, Journal of Clinical Oncology. He is an active member of ASCO. He is on the editorial board of several academic journals. Dr. Ishiguro has been contributing to PMDA since 2004, engaging in post-marketing safety measures, new drug reviews, the advancement of regulatory science, and the management of review process. He has also been involved in developing of domestic and international guidelines for pharmacokinetics and clinical pharmacology, including the draft of International Harmonization Guideline of ICH. He had served as drug pharmacokinetics leader in PMDA from 2017 to 24 and acted as the regulatory chair for ICH M12 Guideline Expert Working Group of ICH M12 Guideline, which was published in 2024. So thank you for joining us today. Now let's talk about the latest trend in Japanese pharmaceutical regulations and the role of the DC office of PMDA. In this session, PMDA is sharing materials, so please access the link in the chat to download the materials. So at the last event held in November, Dr. Fujiwara talked about attractiveness or benefits of developing new drug in Japan. So before starting this session, we would like to briefly look back the key points of the last event. So Dr. Fujiwara, could you share your thoughts on attractiveness and benefits of developing new drug in Japan?
Okay. And there are mainly two attractiveness and merits in developing in Japan. One is the size of Japanese market. And it was reported Japan has the third largest pharmaceutical market and the second largest medical devices market in the world. The other is the high predictability. I will explain three factors behind it. Firstly, the review speed of new drug in Japan is almost same as that in the United States and Europe. Secondly, the review process is highly transparent. Thus, it is easy to predict the timing of approval. Standard review timeline is publicly available also on the PMDA website. Thirdly, the drug price is determined within 60 to 90 days after regulatory approval. The drug price compared to Europe, where HTA is required, Japan's NHI drug price listing is faster. In addition, the price is standardized, thus, unlike the US, companies do not need to negotiate with multiple retailers, which we see as a merit. There are various R&D support programs also in Japan. For example, similarly to the United States and Europe, Japan has accelerated review mechanism. It is a system to prioritize reviews on products designated as orphan drugs or innovative products. For more information on accelerated review in Japan, please refer to the slides.
Okay, thank you. So in the last event, I also heard that PMDA has opened new office in Washington, D.C. So Dr. Ishiguro, could you explain why the office was established in D.C. at this time?
Yes. As for the attractiveness and merit of development in Japan, as Dr. Fujiwara mentioned, there are not known in overseas country. Therefore, we established PMDA Washington, D.C. office. In this office, we would like to proceed PMDA's activities more flexibly and directly with U.S. regulatory bodies such as US FDA and startup companies without a time difference. As you may know, small or mid-sized companies often lead the development of innovative drugs, cell and gene therapy products, and medical devices. So that we need to communicate directly to these type of US companies and provide them with characteristics of Japanese regulatory information. This will lead that they can make use of such information for their own product development in Japan.
Okay, all right. So let's start the session. First of all, I'd like to learn more about drugs for which clinical development is advancing overseas. PMDA is now actively working to ensure that those drugs can also be developed and made available in Japan, isn't it?
To accelerate development in Japan, we clearly indicate two policies in 2023 and 2024. Now I explain those two policies. Firstly, necessity of Japanese phase 1 trial before the start of multi-regional clinical trials. Secondly, necessity of data from Japanese participants for the approval in Japan when pivotal trials are conducted only overseas.
Could you please tell us a little bit about the first point? I understand that in some cases, phase 1 trial in Japanese people are not necessary before starting international clinical trials. So could you please tell us PMDA's view on this matter?
Okay. In principle, an additional phase 1 trial in Japanese is not needed. So far, PMDA has not uniformly required Japanese phase 1 trials before initiating multi-regional clinical trials. However, many companies recognize the necessity of conducting such phase 1 trials before the start of multi-regional clinical trials. Moreover, it has been pointed out that in some cases, companies give up developing drugs in Japan because they want to avoid any delay in the start of phase 3 trials. Consequently, the Ministry of Health and Labor Welfare in Japan issued administrative notification in December 2023. This clearly stating that, in principle, an additional phase 1 trial in Japanese is not needed if the safety and tolerability in Japanese participants can be explained, and the safety is clinically acceptable and manageable based on the available data. English version of this administrative notification was issued simultaneously. You can find it on the PMDA website.
Okay, thank you. So please tell us the specific cases in which international clinical trials, including Japan, can be started without conducting phase 1 trial in Japanese people?
Okay. Firstly, in the case when there is a high unmet medical need for drugs, such as those for rare diseases, refractory and serious diseases, or drugs for pediatric use. And thus, it is desirable for Japan to participate in a multi-regional clinical trial. Secondly, except for drugs mentioned first, in a case when it can be judged that safety of Japanese trial participants is clinically acceptable and or manageable.
Okay, so if the safety of Japanese participant is clinically acceptable and manageable, then there is no need to conduct phase 1 trials in Japanese people. What should companies consider to determine whether safety in Japanese participant is clinically acceptable and manageable?
For details, please check Q&A prepared in English. You can access Q&A through the barcode on the slides. It is important to consider the possibility of the risk to Japanese participants in the multi-regional clinical trials becomes greater than the risk to non-Japanese participants by considering the safety of investigational drug and the impact of ethnic factor associated with investigational drug together. Pmda will give advice on that in our clinical trial consultations.
Okay, so is there anything else that companies should keep in mind when considering whether or not to conduct phase 1 trials in Japanese people?
Yes, just like the case I mentioned before, in case of drugs with limited safety information, the necessity of phase 1 trial in Japanese should be judged more carefully. For example, as you see in anti-cancer drugs, if a serious adverse event is expected to occur frequently and the safety margin of the drug is narrow, and there is no experience of administration in Japanese participants, regardless of age group and or indication. Even if no phase 1 trials was conducted in Japanese, it is important to assess differences in pharmacokinetics and or pharmacodynamics between Japanese and non-Japanese before the approval. For example, we can collect such data from Japanese participants during the multi-regional clinical trials. Ultimately, the necessity of Japanese phase 1 trial and appropriateness of safety measures in multi-regional trials should be examined for each drug. From the viewpoint of ensuring the safety of trial participants, when Pmda judges necessary, we can provide instruction or recommendation on additional safety measures or relevant challenges in our clinical trial consultation. So please consult with Pmda.
Okay, so by the way, I understand that if certain conditions are met, companies may be able to apply for approval in Japan using only data from pivotal trials conducted outside of Japan. Could you explain the basic concept of that?
As you understand, for orphan drugs, etc., whose pivotal trials are conducted only overseas, the submission of approval applications without clinical trial data in Japanese patients is currently possible if those drugs meet certain requirements. This is a measure to minimize the disadvantage caused by drug loss for Japanese patients. Those requirements are as follows. First, the pivotal trials has already been appropriately conducted overseas. Second, conducting additional clinical trials are impracticable due to a very small number of patients or other factors. And lastly, the benefits for Japanese patients are expected to outweigh the risk based on comprehensive consideration with the obtained information on efficacy and safety.
Okay, thank you. So PMDA is now working to make drugs which clinical development is advancing overseas available in Japan as well. I think this kind of information should be shared more with other countries. Recently, PMDA has issued many English guidance called early consideration. Can you tell us about them?
Okay. Early consideration explains PMDA's view at a certain point in time as reference information. This is to promote the development of innovative drugs, although scientific knowledge and information have not yet been fully accumulated. Recently, at the end of March, we issued an early consideration on the points to consider for externally controlled trials. When we cannot conduct a randomized controlled trial because of reasons such as a limited number of patients, we can use a single-arm trial to compare with the external control data. The early consideration indicates the points to consider in such a case. In the past, there were some cases where real-world data or a placebo group in a past clinical trial were used as a control group. So by showing points to consider, we want to promote the use of such data in appropriate situation to show the efficacy and safety of drugs. With our early consideration to show at early stage, the way of thinking or points to consider on relatively new area or methods, we think that acceptable at PMDA becomes more predictable. In addition, our face-to-face consultation becomes easier and more meaningful. So PMDA will continue to publish our views earlier based on our experience and knowledge. For details, please also refer to the PMDA website.
Okay, so there is an issue known as drug lag or drug loss, where drugs developed and approved overseas and not developed or approved in Japan. So please tell us how Japanese pharmaceutical regulations are changing to address this issue.
Okay. Currently, the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare is revising the conditional approval system in PMD Act. Existing conditional approval system envisions cases where the results of exploratory trials obtain in a certain degree of efficacy, or when confirmatory trials is ongoing. However, the system does not envision a situation where a granted approval needs to be cancelled. Division this time considers, first, for drugs, etc., with high medical needs, for example, drugs for serious diseases with no appropriate alternative treatment, to set out a provision to revoke an approval. And approval may be given if clinical efficacy is reasonably foreseeable at the stage of exploratory trials. In addition, MHLW intends to require disclosure of information obtained after conditional approval and evaluation of such information. We heard that the MHLW would publish a specific design of the system from now on, so we will focus on their future announcement. Furthermore, if you make a development plan for drugs for pediatric use or drugs for rare diseases whose maximum re-examination period is set at 10 years, we heard that MHLW would make a revision to extend the re-examination period to 12 years.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Fujiwara. So now let's move to the next topic. Dr. Ishiguro, please tell us again about the role of DC office.
Yes, there are two missions of the Washington, D.C. office. One is to strengthen regulatory cooperation and direct information exchanges about topics on regulatory affairs of pharmaceuticals, cell and gene therapy products, and medical devices with the U.S. administrative agencies such as U.S. FDA. Another mission is to promote timely and direct dissemination of information on Japanese regulation in English at the office. As a part of second initiative, we also provide English language consultation service to U.S. startups and venture companies to support them with early product development in Japan.
Okay, it's been about 6 months since your office was established in DC in November. What activities have you been involved in so far?
Okay. In the Pmda Washington, D.C. office, we are promoting networking to understand characteristics of the U.S. healthcare industry so that it can provide more beneficial consultation to U.S. startups and venture companies. So far, in addition to Japanese industry associations for pharmaceuticals and medical devices, we have met the representative of the AdvaMed Global Office, which is the largest medical devices industry association in the United States, and the members of the United States-Japan Business Council at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is the largest U.S. business network. At that time, we had valuable opportunity to explain the role of the new office. We began offering general consultation service March 2025. Several U.S. venture companies are already using our consultation service.
So, Dr. Fujiwara, what are your expectations for DC office?
Without the time difference of 13 hours between Japan and the United States, we are able to work with US startup companies directly and in English. So we can respond more quickly with speed. I think it makes a huge difference because now we can listen to local opinions and grasp local situation directly. Though our consultation service is just started, I have high hopes for the activities of Washington, D.C. office. I hope many companies will come to consult with the Washington office.
So DC office has started offering consultation service. What kind of consultations can you provide?
Well, during that general consultation service, we introduced the characteristics of Japanese pharmaceutical regulatory system. The goal is to provide U.S. startups and venture companies with deeper understanding regulatory information to promote their drug development in Japan. In addition, to start drug development in Japan, companies may want to know not only pharmaceutical regulations, but also information related to business development. In such a case, we introduce relevant Japanese governmental organization, including JETRO. The JETRO has 6 offices in the US and supports local companies in their investment activities in Japan, depending on the area of the United States. We had the opportunity to visit the New York and San Francisco offices so far. We will cooperate as necessary to provide more useful services for respective activities of the JETRO offices and the Pmda office. Consultation at the Pmda Washington, D.C. office are given in English and last 30 minutes per session. You don't need to prepare any Japanese material for the consultation. Consultation can be conducted in person at the Washington, D.C. office, online, or by a hybrid.
So how to apply for consultation with PMDA? Additionally, is the consultation service free or fee-based?
Yes, general consultation at the Washington, D.C. office is free of charge. If you want to have a consultation, please fill in the application form for general consultation you can find on our website and send us via email. Consultation date and time will be scheduled on first come, first served basis.
So, is there a website to find necessary information in English to apply for approval in Japan?
Please use the QR code shown on the screen to access PMDA website. The important administrative notices are issued also in English. In addition, PMDA prepared a web page for ventures considering development in Japan. Please have a look. We continue to enhance our information dissemination in English.
So finally, could you please give us a message from Dr. Ishiguro and Dr. Fujiwara?
Yes, our activities in the Pmda Washington DC office has just started. We will do its best to serve as a contact point for drug development in Japan and make effort to fulfill expectation of those who consult with us. Thank you.
And the attractiveness to develop new drugs in Japan is that the market is big, the predictability is high, and the review is almost as fast as in Europe and the United States. Our regulatory system is comparable to those in Europe and the United States. As to regulatory system, Japan responds flexibly to encourage development of drugs whose overseas development has started earlier than Japan. We continue to provide related regulatory information in English as much as possible. When you have regulatory questions, please consult with Washington DC office.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fujiwara and Dr. Ishiguro. Thank you so much for joining us today. With the establishment of DC office and the increasing availability of information in English, I feel that the Japanese market is becoming much more accessible. So as a reminder to the audience, you can watch and share this with your colleagues starting May 23rd on demand. So thank you for tuning in and stay with us to hear more about how to navigate and tap into the Japanese market. Thank you so much.